Hello everyone, my name is Antazil and today we'll be playing as France. Well, I've done several France videos already, but this will be one on the Napoleon route. I have a few things to say about that first. Anyone playing the Napoleon route for an achievement will of course be trying to get into Germany and then into Russia. And there are two paths to go around about that, simplified. One is to flip non-aligned, put Napoleon in charge, and protect Czechoslovakia, putting you at war with the Germany and Italian alliance early on. You're still relatively weak by then, but combined with the Czechs, you should be able to grind down the Germans. My little Entente, my big Entente video already covers that, so I'll be taking a different route in this game. In this game, I'll be going for the long game, with an arguably stronger build-up, delaying war with Germany and Italy, sadly giving up Czechoslovakia, but I believe it is a very fun and powerful route. We'll be taking on the Benelux first, then the United Kingdom, taking a small detour to the west, and then build up for Germany. So let's have a look. Usually I show you every focus I take separately, but I believe this is a well-known path, so I'll just go to revive the national bloc all the way to the right here to revise the constitution, and then I'll show you what's next. Research-wise, I will keep up the industry and electronics at first, branch out into fighters pretty soon. I'll also need to keep up infantry equipment and artillery. Industry-wise, we'll start with a few civilian factories, not that many, and a supply hub here in the Savoy region. This is a red zone and you really need a supply here if you're going to fight Italy. In terms of production, I'll put 4 factories on guns. I'll delete the basic light tank. Sadly, I will not be going for tanks in this game. And I'll start production on close air support. As for the Navy is important in this game, but I'll just finish whatever we have here. Not the heavy ships. And start production on more submarines. I'm very curious what Paradox will rework and if this strategy will ever be viable in the future, mass sub-spam. But for France, I don't think it's a big problem. They start with a sizable fleet and should be able to take on anyone. Let's start with, where is it? Revive the national bloc. In terms of the army, just put everyone on Paris and sort this out. I'd like to delete all the tanks to get their equipment back. I'm going to separate the motorized, I'll use them later. Transfer all of these guys. Split this up. So I have roughly 2 armies. I need 8 volunteers to be separated. 2 armies of 24, so this one I can select 5 to delete. Put these guys on Division d'Infanterie and this one on the reserve template. The equipment will shuffle around and we'll exercise it to the correct levels. These guys will no, we'll not delete them. We'll transfer them to the Division de Cavalerie and put them on rest here for the moment. Also, don't forget to gather up your air force and exercise them. Now for these 8 cavalry. This is one of the cheesier things I do. Today I'm separating them all in groups of 2. Let's finish this story first. And I will set them up to invade all of the British dominions. So 2 cavalry should go to Saint-Pierre and Miquelon. 2 should go here to Réunion. And to keep them apart, I'll send 2 to New Caledonia and 2 to the other naval base on New Caledonia. Meanwhile, issue a diplomatic objection and continue down the focus tree. Once the armies are exercised, I'd like to exercise them a little more to get to 5 experience. This early in the game is also a good idea to look at your field marshals and promote Jean de Lattre de Tassigny. That's at least my preference for Field Marshal. And we should arguably form an intelligence agency. Revise the Constitution is done. This will take a year for us to be able to access. I'll go for laissez-faire now. And the time to fill up that year will be used for laissez-faire, economic devolution, and promote entrepreneurship. Let's start with those three. As for the experience we've been gathering up, I'm going to take the basic Division d'Infanterie. I'm going to duplicate them, rename them, just make them Le Division d'Infanterie. Give them a separate icon, make them elite, and add 1 artillery. Go to the main army, in this case headed by de Gaulle, and switch them to that. Now we don't actually have the artillery for that. Might want to shuffle around production just a little bit, just so you don't forget to do this before it's too late. Set all kinds of naval invasions here. You can select both divisions, but make sure to put the naval order on both tiles, so not just the port, but the one next to it. The port is usually guarded, but the one next to it isn't. If you get the tile, you'll get Canada in the peace deal, which is the entire goal of this operation. You might get the port if you're lucky, and then the divisions will be saved. As for all of these guys, just unassign them from their order. The order will still be prepared, but no units are assigned to it, so we can later use the 10 available naval invasion slots for our main army. I've got an invisible ink and naval department to get naval intelligence on the Brits, and I will also form a decryption department to decrypt their cipher. And we finally have 150 PP, and we'll get the silent workhorse Gaston Henry Hayat. Now you'd be tempted to use command power that's gathering up to improve your new field marshal or your admirals. I advise against that. Hoard your command power for now. At some point we'll try to send an attaché to China. I've gotten my 2 spies, and I have enough network here, so I'll infiltrate their navy for more naval intelligence. I also picked Joyeuse here. He has infiltration effectiveness increased. Promote entrepreneurship is done. I'm going to do protect the rights of man. Well, we have a batch of research done, dispersed 2 and construction 2 are done. I'd like to use the laissez-faire bonuses for at least disperse 3 and construction 3. The third bonus I'll use for dispersed 4, so this research slot will be dedicated to something else, like infantry equipment. Protect the rights of man is done. It's a bit early for Bloom Violet, and we'll go for devalue the franc. Speaking of the Bloom Violet, one thing I forgot about, and which I always do in my games, is to release Algeria as a puppet. Well, I'm a year late, but they can still build a few factories. China is at war, so we improve relations and send an attaché. Send attaché and stop improving relations. Once the supply hub is done, we'll transition into military factories, of course. Devalue the franc is done, and we only have 2 weeks until we can do repeal the law of exile, so we'll wait for that. Despite wanting to go for partial mobilization, I am going to improve worker conditions. Stability is still an issue for France. We no longer get the effects from constitutional revisionism, so we can go all the way to the right here and repeal the law of exile. I've set up my navy like this, with all the submarines in one fleet in separate task forces and the rest in another fleet. I'm holding them at Casablanca, and I'm giving both of my admirals concealment expert. Repeal the law of exile is done, and we'll go for proclaim the Third Empire immediately. 300 political power, this is getting ridiculous, so I'll hire, where is he? The war industrialist for faster military factory production. And with the Anschluss just happening, I can also go to partial mobilization. Proclaim the Third Empire is done, and we'll immediately go for Avenge Waterloo. I'm assigning aggressive assaulter and offensive doctrine to Jean de Lattre de Tassigny. I'm leaving his third slot open for whenever he gets logistics wizard, which will take a while, of course. And we captured a British operative. Avenge Waterloo is done. We're done here for now. We'll go for begin rearmament and try to finish up the military branch. Now we have war goals on Belgium, Netherlands and the UK, and we'll start with declaring war on Belgium. No need to turn the speed down because this will be a phony war at first. And we'll press war propaganda against Belgium. That's my advice at least. It takes 90 days, but as you can see, war support is really an issue here. And we'll have terrible events if we keep it that low. So we'll just take it slowly against the Benelux and finish a campaign of war propaganda against each. And this does cancel my begin rearmament. Should have known that. I'll just develop the metropole. Develop the metropole is done, and I can take begin rearmament now. Long live war propaganda. And our war propaganda campaign against Belgium is done, and we can let Charles de Gaulle loose. And that's Belgium. Pass a few times and just take all states. Going for the big empire this time. The UK guarantees our independence. Oh nice. That won't save them though. Going for the Netherlands next. I can still use a little bit more of war propaganda, so well. Let's do the same again. Declare war. And war propaganda against the Netherlands. I've set my air force to work on the Netherlands. It gives me a lot of air XP, but it also drains fuel, and we need fuel later on against the UK. So just get some. Here's the Munich conference, just leave the Czechs to their fate. And once again, if you want to save the Czechs, that's perfectly viable. I do advise you to leave the Benelux alone then. You're just opening up another front line with the Germans and you can't handle that just yet. Begin rearmament is done, and we'll continue this entire tree all the way to army reform. Also, to prevent a mistake I made last time, I'm going to set a bunch of factories on towed anti-air. I have 150 political power again. I'm going to take an elusive gentleman to play around with spies a little more. Also, the war propaganda against the Netherlands is done, so Charles can take them. As expected, pass a few times, satellite the Dutch East Indies and take all states. Now it is time to set up for the big push into the United Kingdom. There are many ways you can invade the UK. The most obvious one is of course through the Channel. The Channel is however a death trap for navies and especially invading convoys. Now this can go perfectly fine and you go across and your army is intact, but I've had several games where half of my invading force just got sunk, and then you land on the beaches of Dover with very weak units and you just get pushed back into the sea. You lose the element of surprise and you're basically just done for. Now, a Tarior video once gave me the idea to invade from Casablanca here, all the way into the western approaches, which is my favorite way to invade UK anyway. So let's try that. The setup should look like something like this: an invasion through the western approaches, a bit of Bay of Biscay into the areas surrounding the two ports, Cardiff and Bristol. I've set up a bonus naval invasion of my motorized divisions. I'm not sure if that will actually launch, but we'll see it happen hopefully. And I should put one on trains and some more on trucks maybe. Yeah, we need a few more trucks than this. I'm getting a third spy from my elusive gentleman. I'm getting a German one and putting her on diplomatic pressure. I'll also research that. I'll use that to get a non-aggression treaty with the Germans later on. Now the naval invasion is prepared. We of course don't have any naval supremacy. I haven't activated the fleet yet. I can add some more submarines. Now set these guys to strike force in these 4 zones. Strike force gives the most naval supremacy. Set the order to go and just declare war. And lower the speed a bit and see what happens. Naval invasion is launching. I'm deleting their order, selecting the motorized, and sending 2 each to these free areas. And they are also launching. They will be mostly a distraction. They can't punch very hard. This is also the time to decrypt the UK. Usually they are upgrading their intelligence agency, so I'm still catching up, but this time I got lucky. Let's see if it's lucky enough. Also, we'll pick our Air Force here and set them to assist on the English Channel. You guys can come as well. Well, not the Channel, but the Western approaches. And we'll switch them around to the English mainland as soon as we actually invade. How are we guys doing? Well, it's a long way, sir. And here we go. The invasion of the UK. I'm pausing the game, switching my Air Force here to close air support and setting them to the lower regions of the UK. The ports are usually contested. Having said that, Bristol looks empty. If they are contested, focus on Cardiff. Here's what you do with Cardiff. You take the units next to it, you attack on Cardiff, you press S, so you only have one unit selected, and set it over here. You do the same with these two guys, and that will encircle the port, which will give you an attack bonus, and then almost certainly you will take the port with no extra damage. Now the other guys got lucky. Bristol is unguarded, so we'll just expand from here. And also, before I forget, go back down here, select what's left in Casablanca and set them on Bristol. Remember to keep expanding here. Also these motorized here, just do the same trick. I do believe the rest of my motorized got intercepted. Well, and we're going to seize Cardiff, no problem. I'm pretty certain that in almost every game the UK will also invade France. That's why we have reserve armies. Not this time though. And now is also the time to use your remaining troops here to encircle London. We don't need to take it just yet. Speaking of which, we'll take out the submarine fleet, delete their orders and halt. Well, they're in combat, but we'll have to get back to that in a moment. They have another job to do. Eesh, my motorized really got butchered. Okay, the Brits are making it difficult for me, but my reinforcements are arriving. A few more got intercepted. This can be a very costly battle. But it's quite rare for everything to go wrong, and certainly we're not there just yet. It's a bit tougher than usual, that's all. Well, this is the glorious French fleet. I do believe I've lost most of it. Holy damn. Yep, there they go. Well, enough fleet maneuvers. Let's finish off the new UK dominions and head over to the colonies. In all of our multitasking, we are now in a position to strike at Canada. Assign the unit to the order and set it to go. As soon as it's launched, you can detach the Navy again and set it to its next destination. Well, we took a tile in Canada. That cavalryman is most likely dead though. The encirclement of London is complete. That's also a good time to start eliminating the troops in there. Our fleet has arrived in Madagascar. So we can repeat the earlier trick. And as soon as this one launches, which is right away, we send the fleet on to New Caledonia. Let's look at the casualties. 129,000 brave French dead. Oops. Good enough. Assign those remaining units and launch when ready. As soon as these guys have landed, we can take London and end the massacre. Well, I really picked a game out to show to you. And we have tiles in both Australia and New Zealand, which means we can head over back to the remnants of our main army and just take London. The UK has capitulated and we have all of the dominions in the peace deal. Do with them as you please. I like to make a big empire, but you can also make puppets out of this. Take Canada, of course. Take South Africa. Now, as for the UK, I do advise you to puppet at least part of them for their fleet. That can be very useful, especially since I have no fleet of my own now, except for submarines. So I'll just puppet the entire British mainland. Well, that was a costly war in terms of navy especially, but it's 1939 and we have the entire British Empire under our heel. Now, a common mistake I usually make is thinking I'm big and strong now, I can take on the Germans. But I have one army of decent divisions and the rest is trash. I'm behind on every tech and have a small air force. The Germans will likely grind me down, so I need to build up a little more. And in the time that I build up, I will keep busy conquering one more weak neighbor, the United States. I'll justify on the Philippines and gear up to get to the United States, where we have a nice land border with now. Now, ideally, you want to take on the United States with two big armies on the eastern coast. We have those two armies. We have one reserve army for over here. We should also recreate a few reserves for the rest. UK has some manpower, but we have another puppet here. The French East Indies with 800,000 manpower. So we'll go to the French East Indies and copy their infantry templates. What do they have? Well, I'm not producing anti-tanks, so this will have to do. I'll add engineers. I won't train them here. I'll just use these guys, switch them over to the Indonesian templates, and train 24 more of my own reserve units. You want your best troops? Well, it helps that both these guys are blue now. On this part here, you'll make the main push towards Washington, New York, Philadelphia, those areas. Your second army you want over here. I'll give them a different color. Yeah, this general is fine. Ideally, you want to cut off this piece so you can encircle the troops here and make some more encirclements here, and then usually the USA is done for by then. I'll put the motorized here so they can make a cut into this area. Now there's one more army of brave Indonesian volunteers, and I'll put them on the west coast area. They don't necessarily have to push in here, they just have to hold the line and make sure American troops have to hold their line. And when you have an extra army, they will be filled up here. Now there's 7 cavalry units that survived my naval invasion trick. And we'll put them on Alaska. We'll split off one unit and put it over here where we have a land border that we can't cover. We put another unit over here at Detroit, and we put another unit over here. With improved relations and a diplomatic spy, you can get a non-aggression pact. I do advise you to wait with that. The Germans can cancel it after a year, and we don't need it just yet, so just keep the spy in place until we need it. It's a very good idea to start reducing the autonomy of the United Kingdom. That'll give you a lot more factories. And once you have another network in the United States, you will want to prepare a collaboration government. Poland refuses ultimatum. This is a good time as any to get that non-aggression pact with Germany. And I'll just set the German spy to simply build up a network there. Germany will be our next target, just not right now. Justification for war against the United States is done. We'll mince no meat on this one. Let's declare war. Don't forget to activate your Air Force. And put a fleet up here on convoy raiding. Hopefully they'll protect a few of our ships. And just set the main two armies to go. Micro around a bit with your motorized if you want. These guys were still exercising, so they should be pushovers. We've already encircled a pocket here. Make sure to finish those off. This entire pocket has been cleaned out. And there's very few forces here on the front lines. Once you've cleaned out the northeast, it's a good idea to split your armies a bit. Set one army to go directly west and the other to the southwest. And finally, we have army reform done. I'll immediately go for the Bloom-Violet proposal to get rid of my manpower problem. Let's have a look. Well, they did most of their factories, so I'm very happy with that. I did army reform, so I can do cheaper doctrines now, and I also got some doctrine bonuses. I'll get rid of Grand Battle Plan and get superior firepower. We can immediately take two of these doctrines. United States is on its last legs, and we're almost at the date for our collaboration government. And here we are. The United States has capitulated. Now, if you're just going after Germany and the Soviet Union, I'd advise you to leave the Philippines out of this. I'm feeling lucky / overconfident, of course, so I will take the Philippines. In 1 or 2 years' time, the Japanese will go for the Philippines. Now you can puppet the United States, that's probably the better idea, but I have some collaboration here. I'm already getting the British fleet, so I'll just pass a few times and take all states. I have collaboration here, so this will be United States with plenty of compliance. Bloom-Violet is done, and we'll go for, where is it? Expand the citizenships, and then encourage immigration to get rid of full employment. After that, I'll go for the research slot here, well overdue, but choices had to be made. Now we have a very chunky French Empire here. The factories will rise as soon as this area comes under control. Well, I'm going to leave it for today. This has been a good enough video for an opening strategy for Napoleonic France, in which you take out the Benelux, the United Kingdom and the United States, all well before going to war with the Axis. I want to show you the rest of the game, but I'll make a separate video on that. The fight against Germany and Russia isn't something I can rush through in a few minutes. And if I put it on the back of this one, it'll be a video of 15 minutes to an hour, and no one's going to watch that. So for today, I say thank you for watching and see you next time. Bye bye.